There's a radio station broadcasting recordings of emergencies that haven't happened yet. Not predictions. Not warnings. Actual radio traffic, dispatchers coordinating responses, firefighters calling for backup, paramedics reporting casualties, from real incidents that won't occur for another 4 to 72 hours. And people have been quietly tracking it for over a decade. This is the story of Station 4. And the deeper you look into it, the less any of it makes sense. If you spend enough time in the world of shortwave radio, you learn that the airwaves are full of ghosts. Fragments of voices bouncing off the ionosphere, number stations reading coded sequences to unknown recipients, maritime weather broadcasts cycling endlessly through storm warnings for seas you'll never sail. Most of it is explainable. Most of it has a source, a purpose, a reason for existing. But every now and then, something surfaces on a frequency that shouldn't carry anything at all, something that doesn't fit into any known framework of broadcasting, espionage, or atmospheric anomaly. Station 4 was first logged in 2011 by a Dutch amateur radio operator who went by the handle PB0AHX on several hobbyist forums. He was scanning the high-frequency bands late one evening, specifically monitoring 6,730 kHz, a frequency that, at the time, was largely quiet. What he picked up was faint, heavily distorted, and unmistakably human. It sounded like emergency service radio traffic. Dispatch calls. Unit numbers. Coordinates. He described it as sounding like someone had placed a recorder next to a police scanner and was rebroadcasting the captured audio on shortwave with no identifying call sign, no station ID, no discernible pattern of transmission times. He posted about it on a Dutch radio forum. A few people were mildly interested. Most assumed it was a local signal bleeding over, a pirate station operator running some kind of experiment, or simple atmospheric skip carrying a legitimate emergency broadcast from hundreds of miles away. PB0AHX logged the reception and moved on. Then, 3 weeks later, something happened that brought him back to the recording. A chemical spill at a storage facility in the port of IJmuiden made national news in the Netherlands. Emergency services responded in force. Multiple agencies coordinated a hazmat containment operation that lasted 16 hours. When PB0AHX watched the news coverage, he said something about the incident nagged at him. Something familiar. He went back and listened to his recording from 3 weeks prior. The dispatch codes, the unit designations, the partial coordinates he'd captured in that garbled shortwave transmission, they matched the IJmuiden response with unsettling precision. He posted this finding on the same forum. The response was predictable. Coincidence. Misremembered details. Confirmation bias. And honestly, standing alone, that's probably what it was. A single anecdotal case with a recording of marginal quality and a man's fallible memory connecting dots that may not have been there. If this were the only incident, there would be no story. But it wasn't the only incident. Between 2012 and 2018, at least 11 separate radio hobbyists across Northern Europe reported receiving anomalous emergency service audio on or near 6,730 kHz. The reports came from the Netherlands, Denmark, Northern Germany, Sweden, and one from as far south as the Flemish coast of Belgium. The reception characteristics were remarkably consistent across all reports. The signal appeared without warning, usually during nighttime hours. It carried what sounded like recorded, not live, emergency radio traffic, often with a faint but perceptible audio quality that listeners described as slightly degraded, as though it had been captured on older equipment or compressed through multiple generations of recording. Transmissions lasted anywhere from 4 minutes to just over 20. And then the signal would vanish. No sign-off. No carrier tone. Nothing. The hobbyists who tracked these transmissions began comparing notes on a private forum that has since gone dark. They called the signal Station 4, reportedly because the number 4 appeared with unusual frequency in the dispatch codes and unit identifiers captured in the audio, though some have suggested the name came from a reference to the signal being the 4th unidentified transmission catalogued by a particular Danish monitoring group. The origin of the name is, like everything else about this, unclear. What is clear is that the community began to notice a deeply disturbing pattern. 5 specific cases between 2014 and 2018 were documented where the emergency traffic broadcast by Station 4 corresponded to real-world incidents that had not yet occurred at the time of transmission. Let me walk you through the ones we know about. The first confirmed correlation came in March 2014. A Swedish listener captured 7 minutes of what appeared to be ambulance dispatch traffic referencing a multi-vehicle collision on a highway designated with a specific route number. 4 days later, a pileup involving 9 vehicles occurred on that exact route near Helsingborg during a sudden fog event. The captured audio referenced vehicle counts and injury descriptions that closely matched the actual incident report later published by Swedish authorities. The second came in late 2015. A German listener near Hamburg recorded approximately 12 minutes of fire department communications describing a structural fire in a residential building. The recording included references to a specific street name. 48 hours later, an apartment fire on that street killed 2 people. The third was documented in 2016 by a Danish hobbyist who captured what sounded like Coast Guard communications referencing a vessel in distress. The vessel name was partially audible. 72 hours later, a fishing boat bearing that name issued a mayday call in the Skagerrak Strait. All 3 crew members were rescued, but the boat sank. The fourth and fifth cases occurred in 2017 and early 2018, involving a gas explosion in Kiel and a train derailment near Lübeck, respectively. In both cases, listeners had captured Station 4 transmissions containing specific operational details that later matched official incident reports. 5 incidents. 5 transmissions that preceded reality. And then came the case that made Station 4 impossible to dismiss. On the evening of November 12, 2019, a coordinated monitoring effort by 3 independent listeners, 1 in Rostock, 1 in Greifswald, and 1 on the Danish island of Bornholm, simultaneously captured a Station 4 transmission lasting just over 18 minutes. This was the longest and clearest recording ever obtained. The audio contained what was unmistakably German fire department radio traffic describing a large-scale industrial fire at what listeners identified as a factory complex. The transmission included unit call signs consistent with Rostock Fire Brigade designations, references to specific hazardous materials, requests for mutual aid from neighboring districts, and repeated mentions of structural collapse risk in a building matching the description of a cold storage and processing facility. On November 14, 2019, roughly 41 hours after the Station 4 transmission was recorded, a fire broke out at a food processing and cold storage factory on the outskirts of Rostock. The blaze burned for nearly 2 days. Multiple fire companies from surrounding districts were called in to assist. A section of the building collapsed during firefighting operations. The hazardous materials cited in the Station 4 recording, ammonia refrigerant, specifically, were confirmed as a complicating factor in the real response. 3 independent listeners. 3 separate recordings. 41 hours of lead time. And an incident that matched with a degree of specificity that rules out vague prophecy or pattern matching after the fact. The recordings were analyzed by at least 2 members of the Priom Group, a well-known organization that monitors and documents number stations and unusual signals worldwide. Their assessment was carefully worded but unambiguous in one respect. The audio characteristics of the Station 4 recordings were consistent with captured radio traffic that had been re-encoded and rebroadcast, not generated synthetically or assembled from publicly available scanner archives. Whatever Station 4 was broadcasting, it had the acoustic fingerprints of real emergency communications recorded in real time from a source close to the transmitting agencies. This leaves us with a set of possibilities, each more uncomfortable than the last. The first and most rational explanation is an elaborate hoax. Someone with access to emergency radio equipment and knowledge of European dispatch protocols could theoretically fabricate convincing-sounding traffic and broadcast it on shortwave, then wait for any vaguely matching incident to occur and claim prescience. The problem with this theory is the specificity. Street names. Vessel names. Unit designations accurate to the correct regional fire brigade. Hazardous material details confirmed only after the incident. A hoaxer would need either extraordinary luck or inside knowledge of events that hadn't been planned by anyone. The second explanation is that someone within the emergency services, or with access to their communications infrastructure, is involved. That Station 4 is broadcasting recordings of actual dispatch traffic, but from incidents that have already occurred, and the timestamps are being manipulated by the listening community to create the illusion of precognition. This would require a conspiracy among multiple independent hobbyists across several countries who have never met in person, coordinating a deception sustained over 8 years for no apparent benefit. Possible, but strange. The third explanation is the one nobody in the monitoring community wants to say out loud, but the one that keeps surfacing in every private discussion thread, every encrypted message board post, every late-night conversation between people who have spent years listening to things they can't explain. That the transmissions are exactly what they appear to be. Recordings of emergency radio traffic from events that have not yet happened. Broadcast by an unknown source, using unknown equipment, for an unknown purpose, to anyone patient enough to listen on 6730 kHz in the dead of a northern European night. And that raises questions with no good answers. Who is operating Station 4? How are they obtaining recordings of future events? Why emergency services specifically? Why these incidents and not others? Why broadcast them at all, in a format and on a frequency where only a handful of hobbyists would ever notice? Since the Rostock fire, Station 4 transmissions have become less frequent. The last confirmed reception was logged in late 2021 by a listener in Schleswig-Holstein who captured approximately 6 minutes of what sounded like police communications in Danish. To date, no corresponding incident has been publicly identified. Some in the monitoring community believe this means the transmission described an event that was either too minor to make news, occurred in a way that didn't match precisely enough to confirm, or, and this is the possibility that keeps people listening, hasn't happened yet. The private forum where the core Station 4 researchers communicated went offline in early 2022. No explanation was given. Two of the most active contributors have not posted on any public radio forum since. PB0AHX, the original Dutch listener who started it all in 2011, made his last public post in March 2020. It read, simply, "I don't monitor 6730 anymore. I'd advise others to do the same. Some signals aren't meant to be received. There are people right now, tonight, in quiet rooms across Northern Europe, with receivers tuned to 6730 kHz, waiting in the static for a voice that shouldn't exist, describing a disaster that hasn't arrived. And the worst part isn't the impossibility of what Station 4 appears to be. The worst part is the question it forces you to ask yourself. If you could hear tomorrow's catastrophe tonight, crackling through static on a frequency nobody else was listening to, what would you do with it? Would you warn someone? Could you? Would anyone believe you? Or would you just sit there in the dark, headphones on, listening to the future burn, knowing there is nothing you can do but wait for reality to catch up to the recording? That's the silence Station 4 leaves you in. So, what do you think is really behind these transmissions? A hoax sustained over a decade by scattered strangers? A leak from inside emergency infrastructure? Or something that doesn't have a name yet? Leave your theory below. I read every single one.